What's up, guys? This is Bolt Struck with Duck, and we're going over that horrible loss to the Arizona Cardinals. So, getting right into it, a lot of feelings, a lot of people to blame. Some people put it on Joe Hortiz for not having more offensive weapons. Some people putting it on Greg Roman's play calling. A lot of people putting it on the refs, Jalen Reagor, etc. Yeah, and those are all true. I mean, just horrible because it's like that's a game that the Chargers should have won 28-10 is what it felt like, if you weren't looking at the box score. Especially in the first half. It's like it felt like it should have been 17 nothing, maybe 10 nothing, 14 nothing in the first quarter. So it's like that's what makes that loss so frustrating. Especially with how well Herbert played and, throwing to bums just like he always does. Saw a great tweet. It was something along the lines of like, if there's a receiver you forgot was in the league, never knew existed, or was some AI creation, Justin Herbert's going to hit him in the hands and he's going to drop it. Right? That story of Justin Herbert's career. And speaking of story of Justin Herbert's career, and people hating on him, did you guys catch this? I feel like no one's talking about this. That the announcers in the halftime crew were acting as if Justin Herbert played poorly. Dude had, almost essentially 350 passing yards thrown to Will Dissly. And it makes no sense. Like, I heard the announcers were saying things like Justin Herbert has to get going. The halftime crew was talking about, Justin Herbert not playing well. It's like, that was absurd to me. I don't know how everyone that's not Charger fans got in their head that Justin Herbert is not good. And when people say, like, oh, you're making excuses for him, yeah, it's called playing a team game. If Justin Herbert's, this is obviously exaggeratory, but if his surrounding squad was the 8th grade local football team, would it still be an excuse to be like, oh, they can't run the ball, they, stop making excuses for Herbert? It's like, no. Obviously, that's an exaggeration, but in a team game, you can only do so much. It's not even like basketball where it's like, if you're a great player, you're essentially 1/5, 1/6, 1/7 of the team. You play offense, defense. Really only 5 to 7 guys, especially in meaningful games, get minutes. So it's like you can highly impact a game. When you're a quarterback, that's also a dependent position. You're dependent on the defense, you're dependent on your receivers, your O-line, your running game. And people keep talking about too, like, oh, the offensive line has, 3 first-round picks. It's like, who cares where you were picked? The interior of the O-line is horrendous. And I saw someone else saying he's thrown to 2 first-round receivers. We shouldn't be complaining which one. Quentin Johnston wasn't even playing, and obviously, he's been good this year, but calling him a first round pick as a compliment is deceiving. 2, the other first round pick was Jalen Reagor, who obviously fumbled that ball and has not been good throughout his career. So it's like just super disappointing that people seem to hate this guy for no reason. But yeah, just getting into, Joe Hortiz and the receiving game. I mean, the receivers played proportionally well, right? Like Josh Palmer played how he theoretically has been supposed to, but hasn't. Ladd McConkey, really slow start. If you want to get mad at Joe Hortiz for not signing receiver, that's kind of what I'm more upset about, is clearly something seemed wrong with Ladd, and we just didn't have the luxury to rest him, with Quentin Johnston out. And then Will Dissly actually played good, but our tight ends have been horrendous. The interior of the O-line has been horrendous. So it's like, I would personally love to get Mike Williams back. I know the injury history, but he's got the connection with Herbert. And, even just having him in the rotation, if he plays 1 out of every 4 games, like that's a win at this point. Because you'd get him for pretty cheap, and I doubt you'd have to trade very much. So definitely have to get some sort of offensive weapon. It's just sucky watching that Justin Herbert masterclass. And, if you take out the drops, I mean, that was one of the greatest passing games of his career, if not the greatest passing game of his career. Just horrible offensive performances. 5 field goals is, despicable, but shout out Cameron Dicker, Justin Herbert, Khalil Mack, MVPs of the game, right? But yeah, I mean, we're going to have to get a center and some sort of offensive threat. Doesn't matter if it's Mike Williams, go and get, I don't know, someone like Gerald Everett back, but going to need another offensive threat and a much better center. And yeah, just quickly on the refs, I mean, horrendous, right? Like that call they waved off on the Cardinals was, despicable. It's like, yeah, it was uncatchable because he was prevented from attempting to catch it. And then it makes it even worse that the call they made on the Chargers, so that was, a ticky-tack call. There's an angle where it's like you could see it, but be consistent. If you call off the other one, call off this one. Because it's like, you have to know as refs, even if by the rulebook definition, it's a penalty, if it's a ticky-tack call that's going to decide a game, don't call it. Don't decide the game as a ref. I don't care whether it is a penalty or not. I'd feel the same way about, like, holding, right? Like, if it was like a holding 15 yards away from the play and it's just like a little ticky-tack, like his arm got wrapped around him, don't call it. You shouldn't, right? Like, the NFL should be instructing these guys, don't make calls that aren't completely obvious that are going to change the game. But unfortunately, with all the player safety things, it's quite the opposite. It's like, if it even looks like it was possibly, against player safety, you got to call the flag. And that's just what makes it more upsetting, is like, if they're going to call that one against the Chargers, they should have called the one against the Cardinals, and vice versa. If they waved off the one against the Cardinals, you should have waved off the one against the Chargers. But again, a lot of people to blame. I do put it more on the refs and then the Chargers ball security. And honestly, 3 total fumbles in the game where the Chargers recover none is also just unlucky. So it's like, I'm not as disheartened about this loss as most people are. 3-3 is so much worse than 4-2, but you are still 500. Theoretically, the schedule the next few weeks isn't that bad. But it's just a game they should have easily won. Got a little unlucky. Refs screwed them on a few calls, and Joe Hortiz, go out, get somebody. But that's about my thoughts. Who do you guys put the most blame on for this loss? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe for more Chargers content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.